How could someone who achieved such stratospheric success and amassed a fortune be driven to take their own life at the tender age of 28? The shocking death of Tim Bergling, the Swedish DJ and producer, better known as Avicii, left the music world reeling and searching for answers to this haunting question. This is the harrowing tale of Avicii's rise and fall. To understand the depths of Avicii's struggles, we must first look at his meteoric rise to fame. From a young age, Tim Bergling showed an incredible talent for music production, spending countless hours in his bedroom, crafting the beats that would eventually captivate millions. As recounted by Dutch DJ Lucas van Scheppingen, better known as Laidback Luke, I took him under my wing, and he started sending me lots of material. I actually had to ask him if he had a life. Avicii's work ethic and dedication were evident from the start, but it was a double-edged sword that would later contribute to his downfall. In Twinhan at just 18 years old, he signed with promoter Arash Ash Pornuri, who believed he could turn Bergling into a global superstar. And he was right. With hit after hit, Avicii's name became synonymous with the explosive growth of the EDM scene. His booking fees soon exceeded $250,000 per show, and his annual earnings were estimated to be over $20 million. In 2012 alone, Avicii played over 200 shows, raking in millions, but paying a heavy price. His excessive drinking that year landed him in a New York hospital for 11 days with a potentially life-threatening case of acute pancreatitis. You would think this serious health scare would be enough to force a reevaluation of Avicii's punishing schedule, but the relentless grind continued unabated. Between 2012 and 2014, Avicii was prescribed a cocktail of opioid painkillers like OxyContin and Vicodin to manage the ongoing pain from his pancreatitis. But rather than provide relief, these highly addictive medications only compounded his existing issues with alcohol and anxiety. Despite pleas from loved ones to slow down and get help, Avicii felt immense pressure to keep going, to keep performing no matter what. This intense people-pleasing tendency, coupled with a fear of letting down his legions of fans, meant Avicii continued to push his body and mind to the breaking point. Even as his health issues mounted and his reliance on substances grew, the tour dates kept piling up and the money kept rolling in. It's a familiar story in an industry that often celebrates and even glamorizes excess, the rock star lifestyle of hard partying and constant touring. But for someone like Avicii, who was already predisposed to anxiety and depression, this unforgiving grind would prove to be a recipe for disaster. As Avicii's relentless tour schedule continued to take its toll, his health issues spiraled into a full-blown crisis in 2014. That March, just before a series of high-profile gigs at Miami's Ultra Music Festival, his gallbladder and appendix ruptured, necessitating emergency surgery. Despite having 2 vital organs removed, Avicii was back on stage within 2 weeks, performing in a haze of medication and anxiety. These were clear signs he should have been taken off the road. But the show went on with little regard for Avicii's fragile physical and mental state. The surgery and recovery period only served to deepen Avicii's dependence on powerful opioid painkillers like Percocet. What had started as a means to manage his physical pain was rapidly evolving into a full-blown addiction, exacerbating his existing issues with anxiety and depression. By late 2014, those closest to Avicii recognized that he had fallen into a really destructive path, buying various opioid prescriptions from doctors in Hollywood, desperate for relief from the constant pain and pressure that had become his new normal. Despite 2 attempted interventions by his team, including one that saw Avicii agree to check into a rehabilitation facility, nothing could deter the young DJ from his destructive spiral. By 2015, the relentless grind and mounting health issues had brought Avicii to a breaking point, both physically and mentally. He was battling addictions to alcohol and painkillers, while anxiety and depression raged within him, threatening to consume him entirely. Yet through it all, the immense pressures of the industry persisted, with more tour dates constantly being booked and expectations weighing heavier with each passing day. He looked emaciated, his weight loss was shocking, recalls fellow DJ Cascade. That's when it dawned on me that he might not overcome his struggles. that he was going to be the first electronic musician to join the infamous 27 Club. It was a stark realization that despite his massive success and wealth, Avicii was teetering on the edge, his once bright future now clouded by the all-too-familiar specter of fame's destructive forces. And as his condition deteriorated, cracks began to show in his relationship with his management team, led by Arash Pornouri, while Pornouri maintains he did everything possible to protect his client, staging multiple interventions and even canceling tours against Avicii's wishes. Others close to the situation paint a very different picture. There are allegations that Pornouri prioritized profits over Avicii's precarious health, constantly pushing him to perform and capitalize on his soaring popularity, regardless of the consequences. According to sources, Pornouri took an excessive cut of Avicii's earnings and writing credits, creating immense financial pressure for the young artist to keep pushing through, even as he was rapidly unraveling. Pornouri has denied these claims, stating that the 20% fee he charged was standard and that his own profits were a fraction of Avicii's massive income. Regardless of where the truth lies, it's clear that by 2015, the complex web of demands, expectations, and financial incentives surrounding Avicii had become too tangled and toxic to navigate. With each tour date, each bender, each health crisis, the young DJ was pushed closer and closer to the edge, even as those around him seemed powerless or unwilling to intervene in any meaningful way. In the wake of years of turmoil and intense public scrutiny, Avicii made the difficult decision in 2016 to retire from touring altogether. It should have been a chance for him to step back, get the help he so desperately needed, and find his way back from the brink. But as we now know, the demons that had been chasing him for so long were far from exorcised. Avicii's final days in April 2018 were spent in Oman for what should have been a much-needed respite. According to reports from the luxury Muscat Hills resort where he was staying, he seemed to be in good spirits during his time there, indulging in activities like kitesurfing and sailing with friends. He even posed for photos with fans, a small glimpse of the affable, humble person behind the global megastar. But those closest to Avicii could sense that his mental state was rapidly deteriorating, fluctuating wildly despite the idyllic surroundings. His family became so alarmed by one particular phone call that a relative immediately flew to Oman in a desperate attempt to intervene and provide support. But tragically, they arrived too late. On the evening of April 19th, Avicii was last seen in the lobby of the resort, appearing in good spirits and very polite to one witness. But just hours later, the unimaginable happened. At just 28 years old, Tim Bergling took his own life, sending shockwaves through the music world and extinguishing a once-in-a-generation talent. In the wake of the tragedy, difficult questions began to swirl, with fingers pointed in every direction. Was his management team, particularly Arash Pornouri, too focused on the bottom line at the expense of their clients' well-being? Did the industry as a whole turn a blind eye to Avicii's obvious suffering, prioritizing profits over an artist's mental health? Or was Avicii's own inability to seek help and confront his inner demons ultimately his undoing? There are no easy answers, but plenty of hard lessons to be learned about the immense pressure placed on young artists thrust into the spotlight, and the desperate need for better support systems and resources to help them navigate the unique challenges of life in the public eye. Let us know your thoughts on this complex and heartbreaking tale in the comments below. If you'd like to see more in-depth stories, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest releases.